Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media here, and we have some breaking news. China and Russia have sent a huge naval flotilla towards Alaska, and the U.S. is responding by dispatching destroyers. It's all over the news today. China and Russia send warships near Alaska, an unprecedented joint show of force. And we're going to get into the Zero Hedge article here regarding this issue today. I mean, we are talking about, obviously, the excuse necessary for them to bring in that great reset. You need to have some kind of chaos to bring in the order. And that is what it appears they're doing right now. This comes as drones attempt to attack the Moscow airport, and they have shut down flights in Moscow. And it comes at the same time as the U.S. is committing false flag attacks on bridges in Crimea, for example, and Nord Stream, and all these different things. It seems it's all leading to a specific end goal, and we already know what that would be. A World War III scenario would be absolutely catastrophic, but it would be the war to end all wars because it would bring us into a new robotic, technocratic environment with social credit, carbon credit scores, CBDCs, all that kind of stuff, so that in the future they won't need any more wars. And this, of course, is all just the script anyway. This is not something I support. Obviously, it's horrible, but there won't be any more wars necessarily. There will be compliance because compliance will be the currency. And in order to get there, you need to have some kind of chaos. And that is what I believe 100% is happening here today. So we are going to go into this article and more today, my friends. But before we do, I urge people to check those links below. Check out our GoGetFunding.com campaign where you can help support our debts when it comes to the 15-Minute City documentary we just did in England. We spent over $10,000 on that, and thank you so much to those who've donated $4,456 so far over the last several months. I know some people have donated on our other GoGetFunding.com campaigns, but nonetheless, this is the heartbeat of independent media. We have never had a more difficult time getting along than now. So go and check out that Help Wham Cover History Go Get Funding campaign and help support us today. We also have Patreon and Subscribestar, of course, as well. Also, make sure to get prepared for what comes next. Go to heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. We have, of course, organic foods, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, WAM, and don't be left behind. You can get free shipping on much of these products if you use code WHAM. And again, this is one of the major ways that they bring in that great reset. China is absolutely attacking agriculture right now. The U.S. is attacking its own agriculture. They're shutting down farms. This is the entrance into the Great Reset, and you do not want to be eating mRNA ration food with your CBDC in your 15-minute city. So get prepared today. Again, that's code WHAM, W-A-M, over at heavensharvest.com. Anyways, let's get into this. So this out of Zero Hedge, China and Russia sent huge naval flotilla towards Alaska. U.S. responds by dispatching destroyers. A large joint Russia-China military exercise, which is being described as as unprecedented in size, has sparked alarm in the Pentagon, given it took place off Alaska, causing the U.S. to dispatch 4 Navy warships and aerial assets in the same waters, a very rare move itself of significant size. The drills by Washington's most powerful nuclear-armed rivals was called in the Wall Street Journal the largest such flotilla to approach American shores in recent history, but it never entered American territorial waters. I want to point out that the U.S. is on 2 oceans. It is basically impossible to invade, though I will say Alaska would make it on 3 oceans, technically the Arctic Ocean. But nonetheless, the point is, it is one of the most difficult places to invade, and as the Japanese emperor said long ago, there will be a gun behind every blade of grass. The point is that it's instigating something after the U.S. has been instigating it for a while with China versus Taiwan and, of course, Russia versus Ukraine, because they need an excuse to go and create this new system of governance, which means one empire has to fall. And, of course, in doing that, you can't just, give up the reign. You have to make it look legit. So what they do is they create this show of force. And people believe it. It's like if they made a fake alien invasion happen, and everyone goes, "Oh, we have to, stand by our government, or we have to stand by the orders that were given because order out of chaos again." So when I see this happening, I see that move into that new realm of empires. The new empire, of course, of BRICS, World Reserve Currency System, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, where there's 3.4 billion population already in that order. And, of course, there's 6.6 billion population if you count all the countries trying to join BRICS. Now, to get into that new currency, which has been propped up for a long time, it's a CBDC. It's going to be backed by gold, as Russia has confirmed. But in order to do that, you need a crisis, and never let a crisis go to waste, as they say. And this goes back a long way, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Henry Kissinger met with Mao Zedong in the early 1970s to create an alliance with China, which basically propped up China as a global superpower for monopolies, or for a monopoly, rather, for trade, I should say. And, of course, in doing that, Kissinger propping them up, they were in the middle of a starvation event at the time, so the U.S. basically saved China and made them what they are today. They propped up Russia as well. And, of course, around the same time, the U.S. sent, Nixon sent Kissinger to go meet with the Saudi prince to create their new fiat system with a petrodollar, where Saudi Arabia would trade in the dollar for all oil trades. Now, all that's switching now, of course. But soon after that, Zbigniew Brzezinski created the Trilateral Commission and propped up China as a guinea pig state for technocracy going forward, and now we know how that's gone. I mean, now they had the zero COVID policies in China, which they'd lock people into cities, into neighborhoods, and you need facial recognition to get out. They're using CBDCs, they're using social credit, they're monitoring social media to utilize for that social credit system. They have facial recognition all over the streets. And now that's what they're doing with the zero carbon policies, which would be 15-minute cities. So all of this has been going on for a very long time, all under the guise of, just studying what China would do. Now China is, Saudi Arabia is trading in the yuan to a great degree and trying to join BRICS. So that's the end of the dollar system. But you can't just give up like that, right? You have to make it look like it is real, even though the U.S. is doing this in the first place. The U.S. is a major part of the Chinese world order that they're creating. It's not even China. It's the idea of China, the technocracy, the behavior, the psychological manipulation of people in China that they want worldwide. So you need a war. You need a war. There's no other way. And then, of course, an economic catastrophe, which we're seeing today, and a destruction of supply chain, destruction of the energy grid, and, of course, destruction of the housing market. So I just wanted to throw that in there for context because I feel like it's a very important point to make. But it continues here. It says, it was revealed by U.S. defense officials in a Sunday morning Wall Street Journal report, which detailed that 11 Russian and Chinese ships steamed close to the Aleutian Islands. And further, the ships, which never entered U.S. territorial waters and have since left, were shadowed by 4 U.S. destroyers and P-8 Poseidon aircraft. One analyst and retired Navy captain cited in the report said it was a historical first and highly provocative, particularly given the backdrop of the raging Ukraine war and rising Taiwan tensions. The flotilla came close to Alaska last week, but has since left, U.S. officials have indicated. Alaskan Senator Dan Sullivan said in a Sunday Fox News interview that congressional leaders were briefed by the Pentagon last week when the Chinese and Russian ships were patrolling. He explained, whether you live in Alaska like I do or on the east coast of the United States, a very large surface action task force between our two main adversaries probing very closely to the United States shores is concerning. And I quote, it just solidifies this idea that we've entered a new era of authoritarian aggression led by the dictators in Beijing and Moscow who are increasingly aggressive, he added, striking a hawkish tone. However, he failed to mention the very regular U.S. naval and aerial patrols not far off mainland China, as well as in the Taiwan Strait, somewhat parallel to moves now being made by China and Russia near Alaska. Beijing likely sees itself as merely answering the prior U.S. naval provocations in places like the South China Seas. Both sides of the rivalry in conducting such threatening joint drills and flotillas tend to emphasize that such patrols only take place in international waters. The Pentagon regularly touts its freedom of navigation operation in China's own backyard. But the Pentagon's response to the China-Russia provocation was something Senator Sullivan has described as equally unprecedented, given that multiple U.S. warships were quickly dispatched in Alaskan waters. Yeah, like China is allowed to do all this stuff. The U.S. is allowed to do all this stuff, but China is not. That's basically the narrative they're giving here. It says, and I quote, we ramped that up significantly for U.S. destroyers and air assets, P-8s, and that were tracking and monitoring this large-scale Chinese task force quite closely. So that is a significant improvement, said Sullivan. That's a lot of naval power up here demonstrating American resolve. I want to point out that, the U.S. government has killed millions over the years, all over the world, invading many countries. They've been getting very close to a full-fledged World War III scenario with Russia and, of course, China, as well as China teams up basically with Russia against Ukraine. And interestingly, Israel's backing both sides of this, but interestingly, Russia has been one of the biggest allies to Israel for a while. And then, of course, Ukraine, which was also helped to be propped up in 2014 to some degree by Israel, and then the U.S. With their coup, their proxy coup, I should say, that has led to what we're seeing today, is a major part of it. This is all a giant plan to bring in order out of chaos, as I said before. And the U.S. is blowing up bridges in Russia. The Crimean Bridge, blowing up Nord Stream, the Nord Stream pipeline. And this is very well confirmed at this point. So you see Russia and China, who have been slapped in the face repeatedly as far as the script goes. Not in reality, they're all working behind the scenes together, but as far as the script goes. And so they send some warships near Alaska, and everyone loses their mind. The U.S. and China have been in near fire battles in the South China Seas. Meanwhile, Janet Yellen has just recently gone to China, bowed to Chinese officials, and did a whole bunch of magic mushrooms in a meeting that was meant to be for fixing economic relations with China. But the reality of that, too, was that they're basically handing over the reins to China. As we know, the new world reserve currency system is going to be based mostly out of China. And it's not whether the U.S. will allow it to happen. They're doing it. They're a major part of it. And so that was Janet Yellen, former head of the Federal Reserve and current Treasury Secretary, over in China, shaking hands with them, saying, hey, this is the next move we'll make, and then you do that, and then we'll do this so that it looks like this, and it looks like that, and it's all a script. And I've been saying that for a significant amount of time, and I've been warning about it for more than 10 years. And again, this isn't everyone hates China. It isn't everyone hates America. It's the governments of both countries are quasi-fake governments that are working with each other for the New World Order, for the global digital ID system, for the destruction of the food supply so that people are starving and forced into rations with the CBDC, which will solve the day, as they say. It's none of that. It's the U.S., the people of the United States, the people of China are equal victims in this. The people of Russia are equal victims in this, and people are going to die because of this. And it's alarming to see how many people are like it with the Iraq War, picking sides here. It's not, this government, our government versus their government. It's the governments versus us. And so they're putting on a Hollywood movie for all of us right now so they could justify how they will further enslave us later. Martial law, lockdowns. The UN just called for a global lockdown, or the ability to have a global lockdown anytime, whether it's for a new future pandemic, as they say, or whether it's climate issues, or whether it's a war, or whether it's an economic catastrophe, or whether it's a black swan event or an alien invasion. They named all these reasons why they could do this. They've already got the digital ID system running right now. They have WorldCoin now. We have Fed now, which is already an intermediary with all of our bank accounts and PayPal and Cash App and Zelle, etc. And of course, China and Russia have BRICS. And they want a unified ledger globally that's attached to facial recognition, that's attached to, sensors in sidewalks, license plate readers on streets, bollards to stop you from moving from point A to point B in 15-minute cities. And they want to decide what you're able to buy, what you're able to eat. They already are deploying food police in New York. And you might ask, what does this have to do with China and Russia sending a flotilla next to Alaska? It has everything to do with it, because they are just creating a problem to come in as due to people's reactions with the solution. And they need to have this kind of chaos ensue in order to bring in all these different things that they want to bring in as a result, which is why they're going to be using FedNow, the CBDCs, the 15-minute cities, all to keep us in small areas, because if we don't, we're on the other person's side, or we don't support our neighbor eating because we're eating all the food, we're hoarding. It's a technocratic Marxism approach, and you need a war for an excuse in order to do this. Same as an excuse for the supply chain, as an excuse for the energy grid, as an excuse for the global economy. So this is one of their ways in the door. They've already got their foot far in the door at this point. So that's why it all correlates, and the same with the COVID stuff. It all correlates with that too. I mean, they needed to test the subservience of the masses to be able to bring in the new currency of compliance later on with CBDCs, which again, they get from doing this kind of stuff. So that is why I think this is quite the emergency situation here, and we need to keep an eye on it and be very vigilant not to pick sides, but pick humanity, pick God, pick family, pick self-preparedness, individualism, freedom, responsibility, all synonymous with freedom, or with humanity, I should say. So
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up. If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?